My dear students, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to your online class. I hope you enjoyed your Eid vacation, and now we are going to start a new system, and this is the gastrointestinal physiology. In this system, we are going to discuss about the alimentary tract, the parts of the alimentary tract, the movements of the alimentary tract, and the basic principles of function of this tract. So first, let us look at the parts of the alimentary tract. The alimentary tract extends from the mouth to the anus, and when we talk about the gastrointestinal tract, this means it is the tract that extends from the stomach to the anus. The parts of the alimentary tract include the mouth with its accessory organs like the teeth, tongue, and salivary glands. Then we have the pharynx, the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, large intestine, and rectum and anal canal. So these are the parts of our alimentary tract. And now if we want to look at the basic principles of functions of the alimentary tract, it is that to provide our body with water, electrolytes, nutrients. And to achieve this, there are some process that occurs in this tract. These are ingestion of food, digestion, absorption, and circulation of blood through the gastrointestinal organs to carry away the absorbed nutrients. Then elimination and control of all these functions by local, hormonal, and nervous system. So, today we are going to talk about the first part, that is ingestion. Ingestion means intake of food. The intrinsic desire of food is known as hunger, and the type of food a person likes is known as appetite. So, in the ingestion process, there are actually two mechanisms. One is the mastication or chewing mechanism, and the other one is swallowing. So, today our current topic of discussion is swallowing. Swallowing seems to be a very simple process, but actually it is quite complex and it requires precise coordination with breathing, because both the processes share a common pathway, that is the pharynx, and if there is failure of coordination, then aspiration of food may occur and that may result in choking. So that is a life-threatening condition. That is why, from the physiological point of view, it is very important to understand the mechanisms by which swallowing is taking place. So, by definition, we can say that swallowing is a reflex response that propels the food from the oral cavity to the stomach through the pharynx and esophagus. So, there are some afferent nerves involved in this process and some efferent nerves. The afferent nerves are trigeminal, glossopharyngeal, and vagus nerve, and then these impulses are integrated in the swallowing center, which is located in the pons and medulla. And the efferent fibers are trigeminal, facial, and hypoglossal nerves which innervate the pharyngeal musculature and the tongue. So we can divide this swallowing process into three phases. First is the oral phase, and this is the voluntary phase. And then we have the pharyngeal phase and then the esophageal phase. So among these phases, the oral phase is voluntary and the other two are involuntary. So here again we can see that swallowing involves skeletal muscle like the tongue and also smooth muscles of the pharynx and esophagus. So the oral phase or the voluntary stage, it is initiated by the voluntary action of collecting the oral contents on the tongue, and then the tongue propels the bolus of food backwards into the pharynx, and then swallowing becomes entirely automatic and it cannot be stopped. So from that stage, swallowing is under autonomic nervous system's control. Then the pharyngeal phase. This is the most important phase, and it is principally a reflex act initiated by movement of the bolus of food entering the posterior mouth and oropharynx. So there are some swallowing receptors that are present on the opening of the pharynx, especially on the tonsillar pillars. So when the bolus of food enters into the oropharynx, the swallowing receptors are stimulated. Then impulse is transmitted to the swallowing center that is located in the reticular areas of the medulla and lower pons. So this is the pharyngeal phase, and there a sequence of events occurs in this pharyngeal phase which we have to know. First, the soft palate closes the posterior nares to prevent reflux of food into the nasal cavities. We know that in this area the soft palate acts as the traffic police. So soft palate closes the posterior nares so that food cannot enter into the nasal cavity. Then the vocal cords are strongly approximated and breathing is momentarily inhibited. So aspiration of food is prevented. Larynx is pulled up and epiglottis closes the laryngeal openings, and this prevents the passage of food into the trachea. So you see we are closing the two openings. One is the nasal opening which is closed by the soft palate, and then we are closing the laryngeal opening by the epiglottis so that food cannot enter into the respiratory pathway. Then the esophagus is open and the upper esophageal sphincter relaxes, and a fast peristaltic wave propels the food in the upper esophagus, and this entire process occurs within less than 2 seconds. Another important thing you have to notice here that breathing is momentarily inhibited. So when swallowing is actually in the pharyngeal phase, in that phase swallowing actually inhibits breathing for a moment. So this is our important phase, and that is the pharyngeal phase. And then comes the esophageal phase. Esophagus, we know it is a long muscular tube, and its primary function is to transport food rapidly from the pharynx to the stomach. And it exhibits two types of peristalsis. The primary peristalsis, which is a continuation of the peristalsis that started in the pharynx, and this peristaltic wave is able to pass the bolus of food all the way to the stomach within 8 to 10 seconds. But if the primary peristaltic wave fails, then a secondary peristaltic wave appears, which is initiated by the mesenteric plexus, and this peristalsis propels the food forward. As the food is propelling forward, the lower esophageal sphincter relaxes, and this is also a very important point, that the lower esophageal sphincter has to relax, and there is receptive relaxation of the stomach. And for this two process, the passage of food occurs easily into the stomach. So this is the esophageal phase of swallowing. So there are these three phases we have to understand, and each phase is controlled by different neurological mechanisms, where the first stage is voluntary and the last second and third stage is involuntary. So now let us go to the disorders that may occur in swallowing. So the clinical conditions, first is we can talk about dysphagia. Dysphagia means difficulty in swallowing. Dysphagia occurs and it may go away on its own, and after a few days it is a temporary situation, so we don't have to be too much concerned about dysphagia. But if dysphagia persists, in that case the person has to be advised to do there may be surgical treatment, or there are some exercises so that the person can control the muscles of the pharynx so that they can coordinate properly. And then another clinical condition which is very important, that is achalasia. Achalasia means when the lower esophageal sphincter fails to relax during swallowing, and this occurs when there is damage of the mesenteric plexus in the lower 2/3 of the esophagus. So if the lower esophageal sphincter fails to relax, then it is spastically contracted and there is no receptive relaxation. So food fails to pass from the esophagus to the stomach. In that case, what happens is food is accumulating in the esophagus and there is regurgitation of the food, there is heartburn and discomfort and cough. So these are the symptoms when the patient is suffering from achalasia. And what are the treatment? That is the treatment focuses on relaxing the lower esophageal sphincter so that food can easily move through the digestive tract. In that case, there can be dilatation can be done or surgical myotomy can be done. And also the patient is giving some advices like to eat slowly and to chew the food thoroughly and to drink plenty of water. If achalasia becomes severe, then esophagus becomes very enlarged and it can hold as much as 1 liter of food. This condition is known as megaesophagus. So another there may be some paralysis of the swallowing mechanisms and this is due to poliomyelitis or encephalitis or muscle dystrophy. So these are the clinical disorders that you have to know about regarding swallowing. Thank you and Allah Hafiz.